Look around you. Endless notifications, alarming news, people running breathless. It seems as if modern life was designed to keep us in permanent turbulence. But what if I told you there's an ancient path tested through wars, losses, and crises that can restore your peace of mind? Philosophers from over 2,000 years ago already used this Stoic secret to live free from chaos, and you can start applying it today without having to change everything at once. While many chase miraculous solutions, few know this practice that strengthens the mind, calms the heart, and brings clarity when everything around is falling apart. Emperors, soldiers, slaves, and modern leaders all drank from this source, and their stories prove that it's possible to face any storm without losing your center. The best part? There's no complicated mystery, just simple attitudes you'll discover throughout this conversation. And since we're walking this path together, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you won't miss any part of the complete framework we'll explore here. Each new idea connecting to the next, forming a true roadmap for living free from chaos. Click now lightly as if opening a door to something greater, and come with me on this journey that can transform the way you face the world. To begin, let's uncover the origins and historical foundations of Stoicism. Picture yourself in Athens, 3rd century BC, when the noise of the marketplace mingled with the echo of philosophical debates. In that setting, a merchant named Zeno of Citium lost everything in a shipwreck, and ironically found what would change his life: a new vision of inner freedom. He began listening to Cynic, Socratic, and Megarian teachers, weaving together wisdom that would give birth to Stoicism. This wasn't ivory tower talk. It was a practical invitation to live without being swallowed by the political and economic chaos of the time. Historians such as Pierre Hadot emphasized that this shift wasn't mere chance, but a conscious response to a turbulent era, when Alexander's empire had already fragmented and the city-states faced deep uncertainty. Reading it today, one can see how the proposal feels more relevant than ever, offering a way to deal with both personal and collective crises. Alongside Zeno arose figures who gave structure to this school. Cleanthes, who succeeded the master, and especially Chrysippus, considered by scholars a true architect of Stoic thought. He was the one who systematized the logic, physics, and ethics that sustained this philosophy, proving it wasn't just a collection of scattered ideas, but a solid system. Here we already see a crucial and distinctive point. Good intentions aren't enough, you need mental structure. Chrysippus, according to accounts preserved by Diogenes Laertius, wrote more than 700 books. Few survived, but their impact spread across centuries. This conceptual foundation made Stoicism a kind of rational survival manual, useful to both a slave and an emperor. Notice how, even before it spread in Rome, the movement already carried the strength of a true science of life. When Rome entered the scene, Stoicism found fertile ground. Seneca, advisor to emperors, used its ideas to endure constant intrigues and threats. Epictetus, born a slave, showed that true freedom doesn't depend on physical chains. And Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire at war and ravaged by plagues, wrote his meditations as an intimate dialogue to keep his mind steady. Each, in their own way, proved that the lessons of Zeno and Chrysippus could cross centuries and frontiers, offering something profoundly distinct on the subject of serenity. Renowned historians note that this transition from Greece to Rome wasn't merely geographical, but a leap in practical application. Philosophy left Athens' painted porch for the battlefields and halls of government, all while keeping the core truth that real control lies within us. Today, revisiting this trajectory, it's clear we are not speaking of a museum of old ideas, but of a living legacy. Pierre Hadot himself reinforces that Stoic philosophy is a way of life, not a heap of theories. This realization opens the way to understanding how the pillars raised more than 2,000 years ago still support those seeking balance amid modern noise. It's an invitation to look beyond dates and see how Zeno's courage to rebuild his life after shipwreck is echoed, in different forms, in each person who decides to take back the helm of their own existence. And between the lines, the next step already emerges. If the origins were so powerful, what about the practical principles that make it possible to live free from chaos? These Stoic principles were the key to facing chaos. When someone encounters an unpredictable world, the first trap is wanting to control everything. Stoicism cuts this impulse at its root. For the ancient masters, life is divided into two fronts: what depends on us and what will never be in our hands. It sounds simple, but it's a profoundly unique insight on self-control. Epictetus said we can govern only our opinions, desires, and actions, nothing more. This idea, confirmed by historians like Donald Robertson, echoes in modern cognitive therapy practices. Those who apply it feel the weight lift from their shoulders. You can't control the rain or someone else's mood, but you can choose your response. An attitude so practical it fits both the daily life of a stressed student and the routine of an executive. Another pillar scholars highlight is virtue as the highest good. For a Stoic, being good doesn't mean being naive. It means living in harmony with reason, pursuing wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These four values work like a compass when chaos comes knocking. Picture a tense meeting at work. Courage guides your words, justice prevents hasty judgments, temperance holds your tone, and wisdom helps you see the bigger picture. Pierre Hadot emphasizes that virtue isn't a decorative moral concept, but the very essence of a free life. Here lies another unique insight. Serenity doesn't arise from retreating to the mountains, but from each decision that honors these principles, whether in Roman politics or in a family argument today. The practical exercises of Stoicism also draw historians' attention. The so-called premeditation of evils invited one to imagine losses and setbacks before they happened, training the mind not to despair. Seneca recommended cold baths, occasional fasting, and other small deprivations to strengthen emotional resilience. It may sound austere, but it's surprisingly modern. Think of people practicing guided meditation or cold plunges to reduce anxiety. This training prepares us for life's inevitable surprises and reinforces something distinctive. The body learns not to panic when the mind has already walked that terrain. To begin, just 5 minutes of daily reflection or a journal entry imagining what could go wrong tomorrow and how you would respond are enough. The Stoics also cultivated a cosmic perspective. For them, we are part of a greater order, a universe governed by reason. This view doesn't require religious belief but broadens perspective. If everything changes, why cling so tightly to what is beyond our control? Historians note that this view from above, imagining yourself looking at Earth from a distant point, helps put problems in perspective. It's like zooming out of a picture and seeing that today's storm is tiny on the horizon of life. This practice, so distinct in cultivating balance, sets the stage for the next step. Understanding how these ideas gained strength when tested in real moments of historical and personal chaos. Real historical examples of Stoicism in times of chaos. Few stories illustrate the power of Stoicism like that of Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor. In the midst of brutal wars and a pandemic that devastated the Roman Empire, he wrote the Meditations for himself, not for the public. There, line after line, he reinforced that he could only govern his own thoughts and actions. Historians such as Frank McLean report that Marcus Aurelius used these notes as an anchor to avoid being consumed by power or fear. This habit reveals something unique. Even the most powerful man on earth needed to remember that true freedom lives within. It's inspiring to think that if an emperor, surrounded by armies and conspiracies, relied on these practices, then any of us can find calm in our everyday chaos. Another striking example is Epictetus, who began life as a slave. He had no control over his body. He even endured physical mistreatment, yet he never surrendered his mind. After gaining freedom, he turned his past into teaching, proving that dignity doesn't depend on status. Historians like A. A. Long highlight that his school was almost a laboratory of resilience.
Here we see another distinctive insight: the power to change our relationship with pain.
Epictetus taught that the key is not what happens to us, but how we interpret it. To apply this today, just remember, when traffic jams or a plan fails, your reaction is your choice. This simple, profound lesson still echoes among psychologists who use Stoic thought in modern therapies. Centuries later, American pilot James Stockdale, shot down and captured in the Vietnam War, survived years of captivity using Epictetus's lessons. He reported that Stoicism was his mental survival manual, helping him endure isolation and torture. Military researchers cite his case as proof that principles from 2,000 years ago remain relevant today. Here, the distinctive idea of inner strength takes shape. It's not an escape from reality, but training the mind to endure the unbearable. His testimony even inspired leadership and resilience programs in companies and armed forces, showing how philosophy adapts to extreme contexts without losing its essence. There is no shortage of everyday examples either. Less dramatic, but equally revealing. People facing serious illness, Entrepreneurs watching businesses collapse, athletes dealing with defeat, many find in Stoicism a foundation to start again. Journalist and writer Massimo Pigliucci, a specialist on the subject, explains how these practices are reclaimed by those seeking clarity in times of financial or personal crisis. This mosaic of stories, from emperors to ordinary citizens, creates a powerful picture of real-world application. And while each case shows it is possible to cross storms with serenity, the path naturally opens to understanding how this ancient philosophy speaks to modern life, its challenges, and even the criticisms that arise when one tries to apply it in the 21st century. What was once simply porch philosophy has now become applied science. It is no coincidence that cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, used by millions worldwide, has direct roots in Stoic thought. Aaron Beck and Albert Ellis, founders of CBT, openly declared they drew from Epictetus, the one who said, "It is not things that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them." This historical link reinforces a distinctive point. Stoic ideas were not trapped in scrolls, but transformed into clinical tools effective against anxiety, depression, and stress. It's fascinating to realize that when someone practices cognitive restructuring in therapy, they are repeating in modern form the same exercises Marcus Aurelius practiced in his journal. Today, books, courses, and online communities are reviving Stoicism as a practical guide. Authors like Ryan Holiday have turned classical concepts into contemporary bestsellers, while researchers like Massimo Pigliucci present both academic and accessible readings. Here lies another unique aspect. Philosophy is no longer reserved for scholars but reaches the public through podcasts, newsletters, and even meditation apps. Overloaded professionals, elite athletes, and everyday people alike are finding in these teachings a way to align mental clarity with practical discipline. It's not about wearing a toga and living like in ancient Rome, but about translating virtues into modern habits, like keeping a journal, practicing digital minimalism, or simply taking a deep breath before reacting. Still, with all this popularity, not everything is rosy. Historians and philosophers warn of the risk of a superficial interpretation, almost an Instagram Stoicism. Too often the philosophy is reduced to catchy quotes, ignoring its ethical and logical depth. This simplification can distort its essence, making it seem like being Stoic means being cold, insensitive, or indifferent. Pierre Hadot already warned, the ancients did not preach suppressing emotions but educating them with reason. This detail, so distinctive to the subject, is crucial for not confusing serenity with apathy. After all, Seneca wept over the death of loved ones, but he never let grief enslave him. That balance is the fine line between living fully human and falling into a caricature of philosophy. Even so, criticism is healthy because it keeps reflection alive. By questioning whether we are truly applying the principles or merely repeating slogans, we return to the essence of philosophy, to practice, not just admire. Today, political leaders, entrepreneurs, and therapists turn to Stoicism as an arsenal for facing crises. But they also confront the challenge of not turning it into a disposable product. This leads us to something even more provocative and distinctive. If this philosophy has survived more than 2 millennia and continues to adapt, perhaps within it lies a timeless secret, and it is precisely this secret that opens the door to our next step, where we will reveal how Stoicism can be the concrete path to living free from chaos. In the 21st century, Stoicism has resurfaced with surprising strength, captivating everyone from tech leaders to elite athletes. This revival is not a passing trend. It is a response to a fast-paced, uncertain world. The movement carries a distinctive flavor, showing that ideas born in the public squares of Athens can still speak to the frenetic rhythm of social media, economic crises, and modern anxieties. Still, with this popularity come misunderstandings. Some treat Stoicism as a productivity hack, stripping away its ethical foundations. Others confuse it with passivity, as if being Stoic meant accepting everything without action. Scholars point out that this distortion misses the core message. Stoicism is not resignation, but active engagement with reality, guided by reason and virtue. This distinction is crucial. To be Stoic is not to silence emotions, but to master them so they serve rather than enslave. It means using adversity as fuel for growth, turning obstacles into lessons. That's why the philosophy resonates today. In a world of constant notifications, economic instability, and emotional overload. Stoicism reminds us that control begins within, and here lies the great paradox. By focusing only on what depends on us, we gain unexpected freedom to act with clarity in the world. That's why modern Stoicism is not just a revival, but a living adaptation, capable of shaping leaders, supporting ordinary people, and even influencing therapies and organizations. What was once born in the painted porch of Athens now echoes in boardrooms, classrooms, and smartphones. And while the formats have changed, the essence remains the same: to live with courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom in the midst of chaos. Some imagine that being Stoic means repressing emotions or living in apathy, when in fact the proposal is to balance reason and feeling, not to numb them. Modern historians and philosophers warn that confusing serenity with coldness can lead to frustration. The real challenge, something truly distinctive, is to accept emotions as part of the human experience without being commanded by them. It's like surfing. You feel the power of the wave, but you don't have to be dragged away by it. Recognizing anger, fear, or sadness, and still choosing a conscious response, is an exercise anyone can practice, whether in a family conflict or in a business negotiation. It's worth noting that this modern adaptation does not mean dilution. Meditation apps, online study groups, and in-person gatherings are reviving the practice of daily readings from Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus. What was once a porch in Athens becomes a digital forum, keeping the original spirit alive. This contemporary presence, full of nuances and distinctive insights, invites each person to experience a personal Stoicism. Perhaps through a morning journaling routine, visualization exercises, or intentional pauses in the middle of daily rush. And it's precisely in this crossing of tradition and innovation that the question arises to close the circle. How do we transform all this knowledge into a practical secret for truly living free from chaos? Despite all this popularity, not everything is rosy. Historians and philosophers warn of the risk of a superficial interpretation, almost an Instagram Stoicism. Too often the philosophy is reduced to catchy quotes, ignoring its ethical and logical depth. This simplification can distort its essence, making it seem like being Stoic means being cold, insensitive, or indifferent. Pierre Hadot already warned, the ancients did not preach suppressing emotions but educating them with reason. This detail, so distinctive, is essential for not confusing serenity with apathy. After all, Seneca wept over the death of loved ones, but he never let grief enslave him. That balance is the fine line between living a fully human life and falling into a caricature of philosophy. Now that you've discovered the Stoic principles and seen how they crossed centuries to remain alive today, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you leave it in theory, or will you apply it, even little by little, to transform your relationship with daily chaos? Imagine the difference of facing challenges with a steady mind, without being carried away by impulse or fear. Can you feel the freedom that comes from controlling what depends on you, while accepting what you cannot change? Think of the small actions: a rational decision in the middle of an argument, a few minutes of reflection before reacting to irritating news, writing down thoughts to organize emotions. Each gesture is a training session, and it's consistency that transforms life. If today you feel overwhelmed, this daily practice can become the key to breathing lighter and facing problems with clarity. So tell me, what small action will you choose to apply today? And don't forget, to truly absorb this concept and not miss any of the next strategies we'll explore, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you'll follow each step and ensure the complete journey toward inner freedom flows without interruption. Each video is a piece that connects, forming a full path that few know. And you, are you ready to take the first step and experience this transformation? Share in the comments what you'll apply first and inspire others to live more stoically too. The small choices you make today can completely change your life tomorrow.